Good afternoon and welcome back to Let's Be Clear with Senator James Sanders Jr. Let's be clear. There's too much fuzzy thinking out there this day and age. You can't get a straight answer to a straight question. Everybody's into technology. Everybody's into everything but clarity. Now, that's not going to happen on this show. On this show, we put a premium on being clear. We put a premium on if I say 1 and 1, somebody's going to come up and say 2. We're not going to say it depends on the day or maybe if the weather would. No. We're being clear. We're doing some clear stuff. Now, if you know what I know, there's fewer people who will be clear with you than Bertha Lewis. Now, Bertha, my sister, has been clear with me for years. If the truth were ever told, she has helped me get rid of a lot of fuzzy thinking that I may have wanted to hold on to. So we are going to have a conversation with the president of the Black Institute, and she is going to, of course, explain to us what the Black Institute is. But then we're going to speak about, my God, where do you start? It seems just when you think that the year couldn't be stranger it gets. Just when we think we're through with 2020, 2020 just reaches out and grabs and holds on to us. I think that we're going to have I don't think that we'll ever get to 2021. I think that we're going to have an extended 2020 personally. We did well in Georgia. Now that's Black folk and others doing well in Georgia, really did some amazing stuff. You guys don't know Georgia. You don't know the bastion of the Confederacy. And they elected not simply a Black guy, which was amazing, but they elected a Jewish guy. Now, my friends, Georgia was the state that lynched a Jewish guy years ago, Leo Frank. That was lynched in Georgia. They broke into the jail and lynched him there. They didn't want a legal lynching. No, we ain't gonna go for legal lynching. We're gonna have an old-fashioned lynching. But Georgia breaks out and puts not one, but 2 federal senators out there. You have no idea how big that is for those people. Just when we're getting ready to celebrate and we, next thing you know, there is an invasion of the American Capitol. My. I mean, it's harder to walk down some of the blocks in my street than it was for them to invade the Capitol. They invaded the Capitol. Was there any police there? Where was the defense? I seen videos of cops running from the protesters. I'm just trying to think if these were Black Lives Matter people, the shooting, I would argue, would still be going on to this day. Everybody would be dead for hours and they'd still be shooting at them if they walked on the lawn less long broke in. But then again, what do I know? Sister Bertha Lewis, what is the Black Institute and how wrong am I in this? And if you want to defend MAGA, go ahead. It's your ball.
Well, thank you, number one, Senator, for having me on your podcast. I've been waiting for this. So finally, you got me on. But let me just give people a little bit of background as to what the Black Institute is. So you will be very clear and know exactly where I'm coming from. The Black Institute is going into its 11th year. We formed in 2010. As you all know, I was the chief organizer and CEO of ACORN, the Association for Community Organizations for Reform Now. We suffered in 2008 And in 2009, we were one of the first ones that really suffered the direct assault and attack by right-wing Republicans. And in fact, ever since 2009, there has been a defund Acorn provision in every single federal budget. So we had to regroup ourselves. We were in 26 states, and I reorganized each one of the state chapters, combined some, and helped to incorporate as state organizations, the stronger ones, because we had to live to fight another day. And this was a membership organization of low and moderate income folks, Black and brown people, that at its high point was 400,000 strong. So after reorganizing the chapters and making sure that they could live and survive all of the attacks, Bertha Lewis decided, well, what are we going to do now? And I understood that we were not in a post-racial phase. And I also understood that the demographics of this country were changing, and that pretty soon there would be a majority of color. This would be a country of color with people of color in the majority. And so we had to rethink our issues, how we approach things, our laws. And I was very clear. I formed the Black Institute, named it the Black Institute on purpose, because I wanted there to be no mistake that this organization, our lens was unapologetically a lens of color, a lens that looked from the perspective of Black people here in the US and throughout the diaspora. We would have 3 strategies. The Black Institute is an action tank. That is a think tank that takes action with a Black perspective. We have a head, heart, and feet strategy. The head being knowledge. That means research, data, and being able to look at different issues from an academic point and a research point. But all the knowledge in the world has to come from the head. You bring it down to the heart. And as Malcolm X said, you make it plain. And that means you translate things from the head, from knowledge, and you train people, you do legislation, and you develop public policy. But even the head and the heart cannot move unless you have the feet. And that means grassroots organizing, joining with other community organizations and actually running organizing campaigns on the ground with 4 buckets of issues. The environment as it pertains to Black people, education as it pertains to Black people, the economics as it pertains to Black people, and immigration as it pertains to Black people. So that is the Black Institute, an action tank, a think tank that takes action.
So are you saying that that organization has something to do with Black people?
Yes. Let me make it plain. Yes.
May I remind you that I was a member of ACORN for 10 years before I became a council person. And may I also remind you, you were the first one who made me pay my dues. But,
And a very good member you were. And once an ACORN member, always
an ACORN member.
So let's talk about yesterday.
What a yesterday.
We saw in the nation's capital an insurrection.
Yes.
Sedition, rioting. And this was led by the person who holds the title of the President of the United States, not by some outside person who has a cult. This was the President of the United States,
who has
the
a cult,
so-called leader of the free world.
Yes.
The person whose finger is on the nuclear button, the head of the military.
Yes.
The head of the government. And this person said, if I am not the leader, my followers come to Washington, D.C. and stop the stealing what? And challenge this government, because if I am not the government, there is no government. And you have the right to march to the Capitol. And not only did these people march to the Capitol, but they breached the Capitol.
Yes.
They destroyed property, desecrated the seat of government, and 4 people are now dead and countless people are injured. Now, let's be clear, which is the title of this show. These were white people.
Yes.
You understand? And I'm not saying this lightly. Think about what I'm saying. These were white people. Anyone who has ever been to Washington, D.C. to sightsee or to visit knows you can't just go willy-nilly around the nation's capital. There are police everywhere, and there are many, many restrictions about what you can see, where you can walk, and what kind of activities you can have. Everybody knows this. However, because the President of the United States said this is going to happen, all of a sudden, there was no police presence. There was no guarding of the Capitol. There were a handful of law enforcement officers. People were allowed to break into the Capitol, to walk into the Capitol and wander the halls of the Senate as well as the House of Representatives, to go into individual offices, to ransack them and to do as they please. This was a white rebellion. People came in armed, militia people, okay? People remember in the summer when the Black Lives Matter demonstrators came. If you demonstrate in DC, you need permits, you need all kinds of things. Everyone knew this was coming. There were folks in riot gear on the steps of the Capitol when Black Lives Matter and other demonstrators, peaceful demonstrators, were pepper sprayed for doing a peaceful demonstration. How is it that these white MAGA people, followers of Trump, were allowed not only to march through the streets creating havoc, but able to breach and wander through and vandalize? People, there is a double standard here in this country. If you are a white person and you will say that is not true, yesterday was the visual, audio, and deadly proof of what white people in this country can do and what Black and brown people in this country could do. It was despicable, it was disgusting. The chant that had been in 2016, lock her up, every last one of these MAGAs should be locked up. On January 21st, the same day actually at 12:05 on January 20th, Donald Trump, law enforcement should go into the inauguration, arrest him, put him in handcuffs, try him for treason and sedition. We should not wait for any state tax cases or financial cases. On January 20th, he should be put in handcuffs and tried for treason and sedition. That is what happened on January the 6th. All of those who objected to the electors, all of them, every last one of them, should be censored in the US Congress. That is what happened yesterday. It was a day that will live in infamy. And remember, Black people, white folks got away with it. Don't try this at home.
Well, the home of the brave. Now, I just want a few points that I want to bring up there. This is supposed to be one of the most secure areas in the world. The security in this place, the president goes through here. This is supposed to be one of the most secure areas in the world. And on most days, it is. You and I have both been there before. And I mean, is it every 5 feet you got a checkpoint, or you got a guard, or you got some big guy glaring at you, and man, you too scared to even, you don't even want to go down the wrong corridor because you know something bad's gonna happen. But I saw the video, and a police officer was hard to spot, and we have to look at that. Then don't forget that they diffused 2 bombs in that place. 2 bombs were diffused, one at the Democratic National and the other one at the Republican National headquarters. 2 bombs were diffused. And now, I got to correct you, my beloved sister. It's true that you said this place was ransacked, that they were vandals, in the old sense of the word, just going in, ransacking offices and carrying away trophies and you know, doing all kinds of stuff. But you said this was, you know, these were white folks. May I remind you that there were stray Blacks there too.
First of all, You know, again, let's be clear, okay? Because you pick up a stray cat or a stray dog,
Don't call yourself a
not
vegetarian.
make you one of them. Some pet blacks, some delusional blacks, and all skin folk ain't kin folk. Let's not get it twisted. It does not absolve you because you picked up, in your words, a stray black person or two. That was a white riot.
Wow.
Let's not beat around the bush. Let's not what ifism. Let's not get distracted. 99.9% of the people there were white. Let's be clear. And in the words of Mitt Romney, let's tell the truth.
Wouldn't that be different? Especially in DC, wouldn't that be different? Now, yes, they ransacked, but then, you know, there is talk.
No, they were looters.
Well, when they weren't doing insurrection, I guess they were looting something to bring home or something to you know, those MAGA hats are expensive. But they money to buy that from Trump. Ain't giving that stuff away for free.
That's
You
right.
got to buy that stuff from Trump Tower. So under those conditions, I mean, they got to take enough to get them a couple of these MAGA hats, especially since they may not have to wear them much longer. But let me point out an absurdity more absurdity to you. There's talk that the president may offer a blanket pardon for all of the seditionists, all of the insurrectionists. You can't call them protesters. I mean, they went beyond protesting. When you go beyond that, you are now into the area of an insurrectionist.
Well, he has already pardoned felons,
oh sure,
lawbreakers, and of course, while he's still president, he figures I've got the pardon card in my pocket. This is why this man, maybe we cannot afford to wait until the 20th. He needs to be gone now. Because as you said, the threat that he could pardon prematurely before anyone is even charged and convicted. Oh, whatever happened, it's okay. I pardon you all. This is why his power must be dealt with immediately, okay? Because too many people have literally died for democracy, okay? And fear of a Black planet, fear of a Black country is what has been driving this behavior. And the need to be autocratic. Donald Trump is afraid that the day that he leaves office, he will be subject to prosecution. He must be prosecuted now. What happened on January 6th, remember, the whole world was watching.
Yes.
If we do nothing, if we allow this man to contemplate and try to invoke a blanket pardon for himself and for all of the rioters, then America, the United States of America, is wide open to any enemy, foreign and domestic.
Well, I concede that were he to issue this pardon now, he would embolden that group because they would say that while he is sitting in the White House, it's all good with our hood. It's all good. We might as well just put on our sheets and do this the white way. I mean the right way.
You said it. It's the white way.
Yeah, I get a little tongue tied here when I think of these things. And under those conditions, we're seeing an amazing period. It's just an amazing. Just when you think that it can't amaze you anymore, just when you say to yourself, "I've seen it," you can't. There's nothing more. You think that you're jaded. You say, "Okay, all right."
Well, we have not seen it all.
Well,
we have not, because
he's showing me that
here's what I fear. In all of the states that certified the election of Joe Biden, all of these election officials had already been threatened. So we need to watch out that in cities and in states where this was contested, where Donald Trump did not win, all of those people will be targeted. And so those towns, those states, those municipalities, please be on guard. Be on guard.
Well,
the places, even in New York State,
what's going there,
in which Donald Trump held the majority of votes, where we know that there are enclaves of MAGA Trump supporters. Please, state legislature, Governor Cuomo, you need to target those places, because that is where the next series of violence and insurrection will ensue. You asked a question about where do we go from here? If you remember the 8 years of the Obama administration, the Biden-Harris administration will get the same treatment in spades every single day. Every single thing that this new administration will want to do. Not only will they be attacked, blocked, delayed, obstructed. So get ready for that. You asked a question whether or not Black people should arm themselves. The answer is yes, under the Second Amendment and in conjunction with your local laws. Why? I say this because we have a history of white insurrection and Black people and people of color being the targets. Let us never forget the incendiary burning of cities, Black Wall Street, lynchings, all kinds of desecrations where it is taken out on Black people. And it is even more pronounced now. Why? Because in this last election, nationally, Black people were the deciding vote that put Biden-Harris in office, because Black lives really do matter. And so now, Black people, we are the swing voters, and we have now become the target. if you think what they did in Washington, D.C. was bold, wait until they begin to do it in your local municipalities and towns. We will see this in the next 2 weeks, and we need to make sure that Trump is dealt with and that we deal with as many of these rioters as we can right away to let them know. But Black people, we have to protect ourselves because we had law enforcement agents taking selfies
Yes.
with the rioters.
My.
We know that Black people get shot by law enforcement every single day. There was some collusion between the law enforcement bodies in DC yesterday and the rioters. There is no way in hell that you could breach the Capitol and roam the halls and ransack people's offices without the, if not cooperation.
And no one get arrested.
And no one, so you've got to believe what is clear to your eyes. How many times have we seen videos of innocent Black people getting shot and killed, and yet we are told, well, what you saw is not really true. What we all saw yesterday was absolutely true. Not only do we need to arm ourselves, but Black people have got to come together. We need to set up our own cyber force because the dark web, all of these websites and platforms that the far right and average whites use and listen to, such as the QAnon people and the Proud Boy Network. Black people have got to come together. We've got some pretty smart techies. We need to shut those sites down ourselves. We cannot trust other people to do it for us. We need our own Black ops, our own Black cyber ops, because we have got to not only fight on a physical front, defend ourselves on a physical front, we must also, as Black people, defend ourselves on a cyber front.
It's interesting that you make some of these points. I am reminded that some of the points that you're making, Malcolm X actually made them 50 years ago. Malcolm X pointed to the Black community and said that he went to DC and he looked at a big map on the wall and of where the Dixiecrats at the time, they don't call them Dixiecrats, they call them Republicans now. I'm sure they don't. Were, and he noticed that these folk were in primarily large Black populations. Malcolm taught us that we have the ability, if we are skillful in our voting, to decide who goes to the doghouse and who goes to the White House. And this past election of 2020, these two past elections of 2020 have shown anyone who has any eyes that Black folk in general, and those Black women in particular, man, Trump should have asked me, don't mess with Black women. Son,
hello,
crazy. Man, do you really, man, you better put 20 MAGA hats on and walk backwards. Don't mess with Black women. When they get serious, it is over. The South Africans have a saying for it. They said they were speaking about the apartheid government. And one saying said, you have struck a rock you will be crushed. You disturb Black women, and it's as true here as it is there that when Black women get serious and they get their Black brothers and sisters and men folk to get serious too, then these folk, when they get serious, even a state of the Confederacy like Georgia, even a state where folk are proud to walk around with flags that say, I had your people enslaved. They claim that this has something to do with their history. No, it doesn't. That flag was not even used. That's a Confederate battle flag. That's not even the flag that they fought under. That's a flag that was popularized in the 50s as against Black people. So Georgia had that flag up for the longest. I mean, these folk, but those Georgia people, my daughter's down there. I my hat's off to her too. When these folk get serious and say enough is enough and too much stinks, and they say, I don't care what you do. You can put the polling place 5 miles away. You could put it 20 miles away. It could rain, it could snow, it could do whatever you want.
That's right.
But in the spirit of Harriet Tubman, in the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer, in the spirit of Ella Baker,
in the spirit,
gonna go.
And now, the worst thing that these people could have ever done was to piss off Stacey Abrams.
Who should be the vice president, but go ahead, one at a time.
Because if you want to talk about an election that literally was stolen, which is why this delusional notion that Vice President Pence could somehow upend what each state's electors had done, it wasn't that these people were so delusional. They already had done it in Georgia when Kemp, who presided over the election while he was running for governor and purging and suppressing the Black vote, was the only way he beat Stacey Abrams. So of course they thought, we did it before,
yes,
we can do it again, but hell hath no fury like a Black woman pissed off. And Stacey Abrams didn't get distracted. Stacey Abrams, a Black woman, and Natasha Brown, a Black woman. Once again, Black people had to save this democracy.
Yes.
Don't piss us off, but when it comes to actually being the ones who are ride or die, it is the Black women that mobilize those Black people in South Carolina to propel Joe Biden's candidacy. And it is the Black women who mobilize young, old, rural, and urban voters to give us the win that we got. Thank God for Stacey and Natasha, Black women, and that's a fact, and you cannot deny them. So, you're welcome, brothers.
Thank God for that. Let me be clear with you and say that one of the first acts that now President Biden should do is to give both of those women the Medal of Freedom. They have provided an incredible boost to the country and to democracy. Forget Republican and Democrat at the moment. Those folk said people have a right to vote and the vote counts. And based on that alone, they should get the Medal of Freedom. But Stacey Abrams should have got the vice presidency. But there I go thinking again.
Well, you know what? In a way, God knows how to do things. We didn't need Stacey to be running for vice president. We needed Stacey exactly where she was to do exactly what she did. So don't worry about Stacey, because we're going to make sure that she has the position that she does. Because as I said earlier, this ain't over.
No.
What we saw in the Capitol on January 6th, yesterday, honey, that was just a skirmish. That was just the beginning. Gird your loins, because it is coming, and we will be, if not on the precipice of civil war, we, are at the very beginning.
Well,
and do not fall asleep. Do not think everything's going to be fine after the inauguration. From this day forward, you must be on the alert, and Black people especially must be on the alert.
I share that feeling with you. I'm telling everybody, 2020 is not over.
No.
2020 it disguised itself as 2021, and 2020 is still there. And 2020, of course, is a sign that we're supposed to have some vision. And if we're using our 2020 vision, we will realize that this thing is not over. But I want to
look at
your cyber.
I'm glad
I'll let you make your point.
Vision.
Yes, ma'am.
Because when you have 2020 vision, that means you can see clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And 2020 vision means if you were blind before, 2020 gave you a new lens. 2020 gave you 2020 vision so that you could see what was going to happen and how it was dealt with, but see what is going to happen going forward. Fool me once, okay? Shame on you. But fool me twice, then shame on me, and shame on us as Black folks if, from what we saw yesterday, we don't start to be prepared.
I am reminded that Kendrick Lamar took a stab at that. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, forget the peace sign. Or something like that. My hearing is not what it used to be. But this I want you to hear. And you're right, 2020 should allow us the beauty of 2020 is hindsight is supposed to give you 2020 vision. With hindsight and 2020 vision, you should be clear on what you're dealing with in 2021.
There you go.
You may have wandered into 2020 not knowing what you're dealing with, but you have that behind you. You got COVID now. You got the election now. You got QAnon and all kinds of weird stuff now. You got folks storming the place. You're supposed to be clear, but this is what I want you to be clear on, Sister Bertha. Russia has been targeting Black folk. Russia has been targeting Black folk. The national intelligence agencies have said that Russia has been messing with our elections and things of that nature. One of the ways that they have found, Russia has decided that America has a couple of weak links, elections being one, but another weak link, they believe, are black-white relations in this country. Uh, and they have spent a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to mentally further cripple black people, get them not to vote, get them to vote for MAGA and all kinds of get lost out here. And at the same time, they have set up false sites pretending to be blacks and all kinds of stuff. So your idea of uh, black folk having a black ops, well, no pun intended here, is really important because no one has come up with, especially to my knowledge, no one black has come up with how are we going to stop the poison that the Russians are pumping into America and using and misusing black people. Man, Putin, don't you know we got enough problems here? Black
Well, it's
people
not
got
just
more
Russia.
than a few problems.
Well,
You don't need to mess with us.
But we've got to have, black cyber ops.
Yes.
Because we have Russia, we have China, we have Iran, we have India, even our friends in Europe and in Canada. No one can be trusted when it comes to black people. Mm-hmm. We are in the 21st century, in the year 2021. Cyber is not just the purview of white folks. We have to be proactive about it. We have to arm ourselves in cyberspace the same way that we would arm ourselves with a firearm or arm ourselves with martial arts skills. We have just as much right to do this. We have to be the doers instead of always being the ones who've been done to. So we've shown that despite oppression and voter suppression, how we can effectively participate in democracy and overcome that. Then now it is upon us to affirmatively participate in our own protection and understand that what we thought was just the purview of white folks affects us, and we need to be engaged.
Now, Malcolm X, in one of his great speeches, made a speech called Message to the Black Man. Now, we are going to start concluding, and I'm going to give you, Bertha, in a moment, I'm going to give you a chance to make a message to the Black folk. And I will, you could give your New Year's resolution, what they should be resolved to, not your own, but what they should resolve to do. And we're going to give a message to the Black folk from the Black Institute and the founder of the Black Institute. And I'm talking just a hair so she can get her wits together, and because I'm gonna put her on the spot in a second. And I will give mine, then I will allow her to give some. In my New Year's 21 resolution that I will give to Black folk, I would say the first thing that you need to do is stay woke. If you are not awake, then the rest of this will not, you know, if you manage to sleep through a revolution, God help you. You will go to sleep in Africa, wake up in chains in the new world, my friends. You got to you got to keep your eyes open and still see some stuff. That 2020 vision that we spoke of is not over. Let's be clear. So the first thing, of course, stay awake. The second thing is that we should be a reading people. You're not going to understand this stuff without reading it for yourself. If you're looking for somebody else to tell you, whether it be Fox News or MSNBC or whoever, or BET, you're going to have to read and study for yourself. Read many different, get the different perspectives and find, use your gift of discernment to hear the truth as it's being spoken. So the reading and studying would be the second. As Malcolm taught us, if you don't study, you'll hate your friends and you'll love your enemies. And that is so apparent. After you awoke and read and study, then you got to act on it, my friends. I guess I'm borrowing from Bertha's mind, heart, and feet business. And I borrow so much from her. Let's be clear, she is one of the chief reasons I'm sitting in this seat. And I mean, as a state senator, if we had time, I'd be glad to say how in debt I am personally to the works of Bertha Lewis. But one story at a time. So we are awake. Okay, you're awake, you're reading and studying. Now you got to find other people or start with your family. Start waking them up. Now do it slow. Malcolm said you can't give steak to infants. Do it slow. Do it. They've been drinking that old Kool-Aid, and they really believe that Jim Jones is going to lead them to some good place now. So you gotta have to take it slow with them and work with them and do some stuff. Get you and your little group together. Then the next step is that you got to take it on the road. You're gonna have to catch up with your leaders, whoever they are, elected and not elected, and tell them that they got to get right, that they're gonna have to borrow some backbone, grow one, borrow some, and do whatever they need to do, and stand up for what is right and quit falling down. Martin Luther King told you that nobody can ride your back if you stand up straight. And so I would suggest that those are part and parcel to that is you're going to have to be able to protect yourself, because there will be those who won't want the truth told. The Native Americans say, the man who tells the truth must ride a fast horse. That's right. And there's a lot of truth in that, my friend. So we're going to have to start eating right, eating to live. We're going to have to start working out, because you may have to run a block or a mile or whatever is necessary to save your family and or yourself. And then you're going to have a means to communicate better with people. Malcolm taught us, person speaking French and you speak in English, you're not communicating. You got to speak the language that they speak. If they speak the language of Second Amendment, if they speak the language that they got a gun and that's all that they'll listen to, then don't go up there talking anything but their language. Malcolm taught us to start out nice with people, to be easy with people. But he said, continue to progress until you speak the language that people speak so you can communicate with people. Make sure as they communicate, I was speaking of one of my beloved friends, and they were talking about they're going to arm themselves with love and peace and happiness. And I said, you should. That is really great. But make sure that when you come with somebody who doesn't have love and peace and happiness, that you can impose your love, peace, and happiness on them. Because if they're coming with hatred, hostility, and anger, and you're talking love, peace, and happiness, somebody is going to change the other person's mind, and it should be you. So yes, if that means that we need to have a sidearm that we can say, my friend, let's not go there. Nobody go there. No, it's all back up from that. And let's communicate like people, like friends. But if you choose to go a different way, I'm not gonna be last. I'm not gonna be the one talking about, well, I ain't got one. I mean, well, somebody give me one. No, no, that's not how it goes. All right, I've installed, and now Bertha Lewis has her message to the black folk, a 2020 message. Ms. Bertha Lewis from the Black Institute.
Well, this is a 21st century message. And I'm glad in a different way that you said the three principles and strategies of the Black Institute, which is knowledge. Maybe you're not a reader, but it seems, understand the internet, understand how you can research stuff, and, understand, like interpret things to your own understanding, what's important to you, and always try to go to unfamiliar territory, because you got to know what else is going on rather than just what's right in front of your face. And I go, down to the heart, leadership. Black people are very opinionated. Stay opinionated, because from your knowledge, that's right. Talk about, here's what the policy should be. This is what the legislation should be. Part of your knowledge is to train yourself or to get someone to train you. You don't know everything, but if you don't know, you better ask somebody, okay? And then finally couple that. You are so right. Community, the feet, move. But in your movement, if somebody is ignorant, don't want to know because they think they already know, let your feet move you on, because you don't have time. You do not waste time. Like, let me just convince you. And no. When I was an Acorn organizer, we were trained. You knock on 60 doors a day. You might get in to talk to 10. And of that 10, you sign up 2. Okay? That means that you didn't get in to 50 doors. Keep moving. Do not let people waste your time. And I'm going to tell you, like the old folks used to say, I can show you better than I can tell you. All I'm asking, Black folks, show. You don't have to tell everybody everything all the time. How you live your life, what you're willing to do, show. We can, and we did. We showed them better than we could tell them. Stacey Abrams showed you better than she could tell you. And so Biden, Harris, and our people are going to need us, okay? Get with those. If you woke, get with the folks that are woke and don't lie down with dogs and go to sleep. Seek out those who are striving for knowledge and who want to make a difference and who have 2020 clear vision. These are not easy things, but they ain't all that hard either. You know what's right because you can feel it. You know when you are being oppressed. You know when people are hurting you. You don't have to apologize for it. Again, we can see it all the time. You know, we see a brother gets shot in the back 7 times and there's no accountability. We see this over and over again. All right. So now is the time. And let's get our ideas together. Black Twitter had said, well, you know what? That was some white folks stuff. Don't get involved. Well, Black Twitter, let's get involved with each other. And let's come up and use Black Twitter to show the United States of America just where Black folks are at. And always let us take a leaf out of our esteemed senator. Always, let's be clear.
I couldn't say it better if I said it myself, but I will say it myself. This has been Let's Be Clear with a giant of our community. One day when somebody writes a true history, they're gonna have to say there were giants among us and most of us were too asleep to know. And I am speaking of course, a woman, Bertha Lewis, who in her 21 years of life has done far more than 3 times the amount of that stuff that it would fool you into saying, how can one person so young have done so many things? It's that she started early.
And I did start early and I've got an old soul. But thank you, Senator. Thank you again for having me on the show. I hope you'll invite me back when we have a more pleasant subject to discuss.
Absolutely, you'll be invited back after they allow me to come back on the air after you putting this show on. Might be a couple of years from now, but that's all right.
Don't worry. Don't worry. You needed to be said.
We'll be back. This has been Let's Be Clear with Senator James Sanders Jr. I am glad that you took this sojourn with us. And I was joking about them putting me off the air. They are not, and I am not, because we are clear about it, that we are you, and they can't shut you down any longer because you're awake, your feet are moving, and your mind is clear. God bless you all. God bless you, Sister Bertha. God bless us all.